Hi everyone! Thank you for joining me. This is Shiloh with another video tutorial for you from Pajama Crafter Stamps. Today we're going to make this cute little shaker card, and then I'm just showing a bonus card here that I also made with the same stamp sets, just so you can see another idea. So lots of cute ways to use this set, of course, but we are going to make this shaker card. So this is just a really basic, easy, simple, beginner type basic card. I think sometimes when we're crafters, we forget how some people don't know how to do these things. So we're going to work on that today. So this is the main stamp set that I used today. This is Pirate Pals. And then I used this awesome paper pad, which is called Treasure Voyage. And some of their little confetti. This is It's a Celebration. And just another view here of that bonus card or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, just another look at that. And that one also used the Adventure Weight stamp. But we're not going to actually make that card on the video, but I just wanted to show it to you because sometimes it's nice to see multiple ideas. All right, so we're going to jump into our card. I am stamping out my image with Memento ink onto Hammermill cardstock because I'm going to, well, actually for this one, I didn't use my Copic markers. So that's normally what I color with, but I wanted to mix it up again, because we're using the idea of taking things back to basics. Not everybody is a alcohol marker artist. And so I'm actually using my Prisma pencils, which they do blend, but I figure that somebody that is new to coloring could just use regular pencils and get a similar look. So this is just showing some versatility, I guess, and just to say that you don't always have to be up on the latest techniques. You don't have to be a colorist to create a cute image. So yeah, that's why I chose to do the pencils. And I do color in pencils once in a while. I'm not as proficient at them as Copics. They are still fairly new to me. So bear with me, but I think, like I say, it's a great way to show that even if you're not a big blender or a big colorist, you can still achieve a really cute look. So, and if you aren't interested in the coloring, I will mark all the chapters so that you can skip and get to the rest of the card. I like to do that for those people that coloring may or may not be their thing. If you like the coloring, then keep watching. I will list all of these colors below if you are looking to use the PrismaColors to look similar to what I've made here today. Otherwise, you can just substitute them for whatever colors you like. So I used mostly just 2 shades when I was using my pencils because you can achieve such a gradient shade with your pencils. So one of the things for people that may not be familiar with pencils that I've discovered is that obviously the harder you press or the more times you go over an area, the darker it will become. So you can achieve a lot of shading with one pencil or one color as opposed to with your Copics, right? So so even if you don't have multiple colors to utilize, you can always just go in with a lighter hand and then gradually darken it up and it will give you that shaded look. So that's one of the things that I have learned, and that would work, I think, with just regular pencils as well. Most pencil crayons kind of have a waxy texture to them, and the harder you press, the more of that texture comes out, and it's less likely to blend. So if you're using a light hand, even with regular pencils, I believe you can achieve a blended look if you go in light. Obviously that takes a bit more time to do the blending, so really you can just color however you like. But yeah, for most of this, I just used 2 tones. On his hat here, I just went in with straight black and achieved my highlights, like I say, by using that lighter and heavier hand. So unfortunately, while I'm coloring, you can't see till I pull my hand away, but I guess the way I hold my pencil, I'm a little bit in the way, but hopefully you can see enough here to get a good idea of what I am doing. And while we're just watching me color, I just want to mention that if you're not a subscriber to the channel, we would love if you would hit the subscribe button. If you hit the bell, that will notify you to make sure that you get any upcoming videos, pardon me, I cannot speak. Notifications for any upcoming videos. That's what I am trying to say. And also, if you hit the like button, that really helps the engagement in our videos. It helps our channel out a lot. So if you're a fan, we would love for you to do those things for us and appreciate that so much. It really helps us. All right, now that we interrupted our program for that little commercial break, we are back to coloring. I think I did actually go in with 3 colors on my little denim shorts here. So, yeah, as Joy would say, I went in a bit with some scary dark. So I used a really dark navy. Oop, I wobbled hit my light there. Sorry about that. But yeah, I went in with a scary dark just to get in those different shades. So, and you just saw me sharpening my pencil there. So one of the things that I have learned, it was not my idea. Along the way, I do watch different coloring videos and such. So I'm not sure where I learned it, but one of the things that has been suggested with coloring with pencils is make sure you use a really sharp point. It really helps you get in, especially with the details of things. But to keep that nice, precise way of shading, I guess, it does help a lot. I've really noticed the difference. So, yeah, I sharpen my pencils a ton. I think I tried to keep most of them sharp before I started coloring today for you, but I'm sure you'll see that pencil sharpener come out again. So we're just going in with that boat. So I'm actually used the same color on a few different elements in my image today. So just using those browns again in this little boat. And yeah, like with the shading in this, you can see how cute he is. He's not super shaded like probably he would be with a Copic, but he still looks really cute. So I don't think you have to necessarily learn all of the ways to color properly without, especially when you have a little image like this. He's pretty, like each element is pretty small when you break it down. So the overall image is a good size, but his little hat, his little stripes, his little denim shorts, like they're all small. So if you're getting in there with a little pencil, it doesn't take much to make him look good. And again, repeating colors. So I have the same hair color as I'm now using on this little treasure chest. So, it gives it more of a cohesive look. And honestly, brown is brown. I mean, there's so many different shades, of course, but I was just really trying to keep this simple. So, yeah, to hopefully appeal to people that want to get started with coloring. You can use some of these same principles even with Copic markers. You really don't have to start with a ton of shades. You can use just a couple shades and a lighter and a darker and blend them out. So that's basically my thought behind how I colored today, was just wanting to keep it more for people that haven't had the chance to get into coloring too much yet. And I actually have a gold pencil, which unless you press really, really hard, it doesn't come out metallic. But I did just go over all my coins with that. And I think some point in the video, I do go back in with a gold gel pen and I add a little bit of gold detail just to give it a little bit more of that actual gold look. We're just going to go in and color his swords. And I just used some grays here. And I guess I used 3 shades because I went in with on the handles darker. So I just did a darker tone on the handles and then I did a medium and light tone on the blade. So that was my trick for that. We're getting there. We need to do we're going to do the little rocks and the little seashells. So again, these elements are quite small. So when you have really small elements, you don't necessarily need to shade. I'm finding that more and more, like when something's so tiny, like those little shells, I just did them one solid color. of course, that's up to you, but it just didn't seem necessary to do multi-shades because your little pencil tip barely gets in there. We're just giving him some sand to stand on. He seems like he should be standing on the sand with all his fun little treasures and the boat in the back. And here I'm just going in with a bit of black to darken the shadows. So that's also a tip and a trick that you can use with Copics and with pencils, is going in with your black pencil works really great to darken up some of those shading. I have used it in some of my Copic coloring as well and love it. I've seen different artists use it a lot, and I think it's a really great effect. So, and here I am going with that gold gel pen, like I said, and just adding in some interest to that little treasure chest. And for the silver, I'm just going over his little belt buckle, and I did add a little bit into the swords as well, just to give a realistic quote-unquote look, and also on the little latch on the treasure chest. And you can see I've got both my sentiment and that image stamped out, and we're just going to go in and emboss this little background. I just used something from my stash. You don't see a ton of it in the end, so it doesn't really matter. It's just something with texture that you feel kind of coordinates with our design today. And we are going to go through and pick out our papers. This is the Treasure Voyage paper pack, and I'm showing you all the different papers there, front and back. And this is a really awesome set. Like, I know it's got a little bit of a nautical theme to it, but it also has a lot of really great neutral tones or masculine grungy tones that I think will just be awesome for a lot of different cards. So I'm excited to have this in my stash. And of course, today I did pick out a couple that went with my little image. So the one that I'm just about to die cut here is little swords crossing. So I thought that was cute. So this is the beginning of our shaker card. I trimmed down that piece to be 4 inches wide, and then I cut out a circle. And now I'm going to use the same circle, and I'm going to cut out my image. So I'm just going to try to do this step by step here for you, so that if you are new to this, it makes sense to you. Okay. So now I don't want that piece to be that big. So it's going to be a square. So we've got 4 by 4 with that circle in the middle. And I'm going to go do some stitching before I get too far along here. So just showing you where I was going to do that. And we're just pulling our thread to the back. So we will get more into the shaker here in just a second, but just trying to do all the steps. So if you want to do any stitching or anything like that, before you put your shaker together is the time, because you're not going to be able to stitch through all the layers once you're done. So that was why I paused and did that then. And I'm going to just trim out my little image, but I left the circle on the bottom. And you'll see why I cut them out in a minute. But yes, I'm showing you there that I left the end of the bottom of the circle. And now I have a piece of transparency, and we're just going to make sure that it's small enough to fit just underneath of that square that I have there with the circle. And we're going to adhere it to the back of that square with the circle. And I'm using a double-sided tape to do that. You can use a liquid glue, but you just want to make sure it dries nice. Whatever works for you, that's going to keep that well adhered. You don't want it to be peeling up at all, because you would end up with some leakage with your shaker bits. So you just want to make sure that that's whatever you use, it sticks well. And I just had a little bit of that transparency showing from the front side, so I went ahead and trimmed that down. And now I am going to attach my little pirate guy onto the front of that circle. So he's not going to be inside the shaker, he's going to be on top of the shaker. Hopefully that makes sense so far to everybody. So I'm showing you there, he's on the front side of that transparency, and he's on the front side of the card. And our shaker will need a back. So I picked out this blank piece of paper, and we're just cutting, and I'm measuring there just to make sure that it's just slightly shorter, or smaller, I should say, than my front piece. And you can see what it's going to look like. You'll be able to see that blank paper through our shaker. And for whatever reason, I decided to put my back piece on here next. So I just pulled out some gold corner fold. Oh my goodness. Gold photo corners. I'm sorry, my brain is not functioning the way it normally does. And stuck that main piece down. I'm not sure why I did it in that order, but we are now back to our shaker. So on the back side of that transparency with the circle, as you can see, we are attaching some foam tape. I have these great little thin strips that you can get multiple places, and they are designed for making shakers. So they're actually thicker or taller, however you want to envision that. So they're thin strips, but they have a lot of height, so that when you put all your shaker bits inside, they will actually shake. So that is an option. You can get different, I think they go by the millimeter. You can get different thicknesses of your foam. So this one is awesome because I don't have to, do anything to it to have enough room for my shaker bits to shake. So that's what we're doing right now, is we're just adding some to the edge. And then I did put some on my little pirate just to hold him in place. But what you want to make sure is that there's no areas where those little bits can get out of your little shaker area. So you want that square to be completely closed off. And you can see I went through on my little corners. You don't have to do that, but just to make sure that it's all nice and sealed wherever you're going to put your bits, so that they're not going to end up coming out anywhere when you shake your card. And I'm just taking that It's a Celebration confetti, and I went through and I picked out all the black pieces because I wanted this to look like gold treasure. So I just wanted gold pieces, and I didn't have gold confetti all on its own. I think Pajama Crafter Stamps does have plain gold. I will link that below, as well as this one for you. And then I just took some regular sparkles, I guess, and added that in just to add some more interest. And I stuck that back piece onto the whole part of that shaker. I'm sorry, my brain is I'm losing it here a little bit, but okay, back on track. So that was the shaker piece, and I wanted to add some more interest to it before I put it on the card. So I'm really hoping that assembly made sense to you. If it didn't, then you can always rewind and slow that down even. That is an option with watching your videos in playback. So you might want to mute it though, but yes, so you can always slow it down, watch that again, and hopefully that makes really good sense to you. It's really, really quite basic and simple, but if you have any questions, please put them below. I will do my best to get back to you on that, of course. I am here to help. Okay, so we're just cutting out our sentiment, and I'm just attaching that to the top of that circle there. There's some cute sentiments that go, quite a few sentiments actually, that go with this set. So it's definitely cute. Lots of puns if you like puns. So that's fun. And you can see that I wrapped my twine around the bottom bit of that whole shaker piece. And before we stick that down, I know that I want to add a little bit more interest. So I've just cut a couple little strips of this stripe paper, and I'm just attaching it so that it'll peek out from either the top and the bottom of that shaker piece. So there, you can see what I mean there. And I also added in a couple tabs. These are just some scraps that I had kicking around that coordinated with what I was doing. That twine is a black twine that has a little bit of a gold thread through it. So I wanted to bring in a little bit more black into my card. And these little tabs are like a great way, I find, often to bring in a little bit more of a certain color. If you're ever like, oh, you know what, it just needs a little bit more of that color. If I add a tab to my card, it often just is enough. So I think that's one of the reasons why I got into using tabs so often, is because it's sort of a sneaky way to bring in a color, and and it ties things in. So we've got the black in the thread, we've got the black in his hat, and then we've got the black in the tabs. So now we have a triangle or 3, right? They always say to do things in the odd numbers. So we have three bits of black in my card. So to me, that now feels balanced. So that's a little trick that I often will use. And I'm just gonna make a little fake bow. So I am looping this around my fingers, and I did this just in real time so you could see, instead of speeding it up, how I did that. So you just kind of loop it around your fingers, and then I'm using a glue dot, and I just stick down that whole bit of loop onto the glue dot, and then it looks like a little bow. And then to finish it off, we're going to put a button, and I always thread my buttons like so. So it looks like I've sewn through it, but I didn't. I just put the thread through, and then I glue down with you could use a glue dot here, or I use my hot glue. And now it looks like an actual little bow with a sewn button as a center. So that's very faux way of doing it, but it actually looks like I sewed through that little button, and it is the real center of that bow, even though we didn't do it that way. So a little trick, a little more hot glue keeps that nice and secure. Of course, glue dots work great. I have kind of replaced a lot of my glue dot use with my hot glue. I find that helpful. And that is our finished shaker card, you guys. That's it. So here's some close-up pictures just so you can see the finished result. Thank you all so much for joining me today. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we will see you next time. Have a great day.